packed hour for you. President Trump says the US will run Venezuela after special forces captured the nation's leader, Nicolas Maduro, and his wife in a helicopter raid.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition.
Meanwhile, Venezuela's Vice President, Delcy Rodriguez, has now been sworn in as interim president. It follows Maduro and his wife being flown to the US and taken into custody after large-scale strikes on Venezuela's capital, Caracas. Donald Trump has promised to restore Venezuela's oil infrastructure and make the country money again. In reaction, Sir Keir Starmer said the UK regards Nicolas Maduro as an illegitimate president and has long supported transition of power, before reiterating his support for international law.
I want to speak to President Trump. I want to speak to allies. As I say, I can be absolutely clear that we were not involved in that. And as you know, I always say and believe we should all uphold international law.
OK, now, if you're a friend of GB News, and it's a very good thing to be, by the way, you can vote in our poll. Should Keir Starmer condemn President Trump's capture of President Maduro? If you want to vote in the poll, you can scan the QR code on your screen. Now, this is becoming a thing with me, or simply visit gbnews.com/you decide. Currently, it's 6% of you say yes and 94% of you say no, and I can't say I am surprised. Joined now by foreign correspondent at Unheard, David Patrikarakos. David, good to see you. Thank you very much for joining me. Obviously, this situation started yesterday morning, moved on hugely overnight with Trump's press conference saying he's going to run Venezuela. What do you make of where we are this afternoon?
Well, it's utterly extraordinary, Dawn. I mean, 2026 has dawned in an astonishing start. And let's not forget, Dawn, he's only been in power 1 year, Trump 2, and look where we are. Look, this is really extraordinary for several reasons. First of all, the act in itself. It was Israeli-like, wasn't it? They went in, special forces on the ground, took a guy out, brought him all the way back to the States. I mean, that photo of him that's, appearing on the screen now, this is, Dawn, the modern-day equivalent of Caesar dragging the Gaul chief Vercingetorix through the streets of Rome in chains. And I don't rule that out at some point in the future, the way it's going. Look, there are several things here that are interesting. First of all, that it was done, as we've said. The second of all, the way he's talking about it. Let's be clear here. When America rolled in with us into Iraq and took out Saddam, the West, America mainly, also ran Iraq, but they never said it. The fact that Trump says we're going to run Venezuela, forget about the legalities of going in and taking him out, according to international law, which is another story. But the fact that they nakedly say this is extraordinary. This is a new world that we are in, Dawn. And Donald Trump, the former reality star, is the man who has ushered it in. We have to accept that. He is now a figure of historical consequence.
Your personal data could be exposed right now without you even knowing it. And if you want it removed, use incogni.com/GB News in the description now and get 60% off an annual plan on us. Incogni reach out to the data brokers on your behalf and request that your information be deleted from their databases. And they'll keep sending removal requests to make sure your data stays gone. Sometimes your information ends up on strange, obscure websites that automated tools just can't reach. And that's why Incogni just launched their unlimited plan with a feature called Custom Removals. With this, you can submit any link where your personal information appears, literally paste in the URL, and their privacy team will investigate and work to get it removed. And getting started is super easy. Hit the link in the description, create an Incogni account, and tell them whose data you want removed. Grant them permission to work on your behalf, and then all you've got to do is sit back and relax. They'll keep you updated along the way. Incogni is totally risk-free for 30 days. If you try it, it's not for you, you'll get a full refund. So take back control of your personal data today with Incogni. Use our code GBNews at checkout via the link in the description, and you'll get 60% off an annual plan.
Is it a good thing, though, David? I mean, obviously, you have those on the left saying that Trump is behaving like a dictator, almost comparing him to Putin.
Right. Well, that's ridiculous. So, the same people, by the way, on the left who are comparing Trump to Putin, I'll make you a bet, are the same people who have been contorting themselves to excuse Putin's behavior over the last decade, not to mention the mullahs. Look, in and of itself, this isn't, more broadly speaking, this isn't great. The president, it says, is not great. We can't really have everyone going in and out, toppling leaders. And, I said this was Israeli-like. I'm in an execution. Israelis have never actually done this to a leader. That said, Maduro was a deeply unpleasant man. He was probably enabling narco trafficking, and he was certainly in bed with the Iranians. The geopolitical fallout of this, Dawn, is very interesting. People don't realize that Venezuela has larger oil reserves than Saudi Arabia. If the Americans in a transition phase take control of Venezuela's oil reserves, get it pumping properly, and then hand over probably to Maria Correa, who actually did win the election, oil could drop below $50 a barrel, which is the best thing you can do to really stick it to Vladimir Putin, way beyond any kind of a sanctions. Don't forget, Russia is essentially a massive petrol pump with a healthy dose of psychopathy thrown in.
But what message is it sending to, I mean, I completely understand that this is a message. Do not mess with America. I mean, certainly with one eye on the situation developing in Iran. Do not mess with America. But on the other hand, David, it's sending a message to countries like China, who have got one eye on Taiwan, that you can basically do what you want.
Look, okay, two things. First of all, you saw that the White House, the official White House account, responded to this with essentially a long meme, and it said FOFO, which is F around and find out. That's the message. It's very clear. Now, is this good for the world? Probably not. This is a world where might is right. This is emerging. This is what Donald Trump is birthing, right? We're not even abiding by the rhetoric of the norms-based order. Now, there's a reason for that. The Bretton Woods order, whatever you want to call it, that was built in the aftermath of World War II and that largely held the world together, brought it unprecedented in the West, at least. Peace and prosperity is kind of over. Trump was elected because he is a symptom, not the cause of the disillusionment with that regime. What is coming now is a harsher world, and I don't think it's a better one, but I think it is now inexorable. The problem is that Donald Trump can do this because he is the president of the United States, and they are still the global superpower. It's not good for everybody else. In terms of China, I have less sympathy with this argument. If China wants to take Taiwan, it's going to do it. The fact that America behaves in a certain way doesn't really matter. After all, you can make the argument that he saw what Putin did and use that as an example. Chinese will do what they want to do.
OK, and David, obviously you've seen what our own Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, had to say about this, and I'm still not entirely sure what he has said about it, but there is an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council scheduled for tomorrow. How important is the UK in this situation? Do we even count? Is Keir Starmer important?
Dawn, I just feel kind of sorry for Keir Starmer now, and that's the worst thing. He just popped up on your screen there, contorting himself, desperate to try and stay relevant, but at the same time not go against the international law that has been his guiding light his entire life. Keir Starmer is not relevant. Keir Starmer is not relevant anywhere, not even barely in Britain. I just pity the man now. I don't even dislike him. As I say, look, there is a new world that is being born here, and I don't think it's a better one, but it requires new types of leaders, and Keir Starmer is emphatically not that.
How do you think he will be? What should he do to react? What would you like to see him do to react? I mean, he has, to be fair to Keir Starmer, he's in a tricky situation. He's trying to build that special relationship. But it is a political tightrope to keep his party happy, to keep Donald Trump happy, to keep voters happy. I mean, technically, as far as we're at the moment, we are still to hear the legal arguments that America will put forward tomorrow. But technically, they appear to have broken international law. Keir Starmer never tires of telling us that he's a stickler for international law. In theory, he should condemn it then, will he?
Well, this is the thing. He won't and he can't. And this is why he's just the wrong guy for the job. Now, I'm not saying he's the wrong guy for the job because he can't go against international law. I'm saying from the beginning, this is a man who is living in a different century, not literally, but figuratively. I keep coming back to this. It's a new age. And you know what? Tory, Labour, this uni party of chaos, it doesn't really matter anymore. What we need is whole-scale reform. I mean that small r, maybe it's the Reform Party coming, but people need to understand putting your finger in a dike here, there, and everywhere is not going to work. If Keir Starmer wanted to do something bold, he'd come out and he'd say, look, what we've been doing isn't working. We need wholesale reform of Britain. We need wholesale reform of our civil service. We need wholesale reform of our migration system. And then we need to look forward. That's what I'd be talking about if I were Keir Starmer, frankly. But he can't do it because it's not who he is. He is a creature, a product of the establishment that is now past its sell-by date. It's unfortunate, but it's inescapable.
David, just quickly and finally, have we now come full circle and are back in a time where it's the alpha masculine men that are running the world rather than the woke, hand-wringing liberal, oh, but we've got to think about?
Yes, and it's such an irony to me that the man who brought it in, Dawn, wears more makeup than any woman I've ever dated. But yes, this is where we are.
Thank you very much indeed. That's David Patrikarakos there, who is a foreign correspondent at Unheard, with some pretty strong views there, but also a bit of a sense of humour about some of the situation.